All right, everybody, welcome to Fantasy Football Live with the Fantasy Sports Boss. So a lot to get to today. It is Waiver Wire Tuesday. So Waiver Wire Tuesday, we got to get our waiver claims in for tomorrow. And, the waiver day is always a fun day because that's one of those days where you can, I know for myself, you tend to lose a little bit of sleep because you get up early, try to see who you got, or if somebody slipped through the waiver wire that you could pick up off of waivers and not have to burn a waiver spot. So that's always fun. So, waiver wire Tuesday, like I said before, I have a couple of names that I think, are worth picking up. And certainly Ken Walker is the number one guy for waivers this week. And that's the obvious call. It's not a great week for waivers. There's not a lot of must-have guys, but Ken Walker certainly is at the top spot there. Now, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that notification button if you haven't done so already. Going to definitely be live tomorrow as well, again, for the first injury report that comes out tomorrow. And I wanted to jump on today because there's a lot going on. The Devonte Adams situation. You have the Christian McCaffrey Carolina Panthers situation. Are they going to sell players? I don't know why they wouldn't, but and then Taysom Hill, of course, who's still the talk of fantasy football for the second time in 5 weeks. And amid recent reports today that he's going to remain a big part of the offense, a big part of the running game. So I wanted to get to all of that today. Randy Miller, how are you? You're in a tough spot, huh? All right. And make sure, guys, if you have any questions, post it in the chat. I have Burrow, Clyde, Mixon, Higgins, Evans, Jamar. Who should I move? Who should I target? Kind of an open-ended question, but I mean, you have a lot of Bengals. So right off the bat, I think you should probably trade one of the Bengals. Might even be Jamar Chase because, I mean, your running backs are not great. So you need Mixon and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I told everybody to trade Clyde Edwards-Helaire while he had the opportunity. We saw last night that with a sub 50% snap share, if the Chiefs fall behind early in games, it's going to be Jerick McKinnon and not Edwards-Helaire in the game there. And wasn't impressive running the football. And he hasn't really been impressive running the football all season, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's kind of getting by on the touchdowns more than anything. Now, in terms of who you should target, I would definitely get another running back because, like I said, I don't think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is gonna hold down the fort for you. You could try, maybe getting Aaron Jones, somebody like that. So yeah, I mean, he was 2 yards away from 2 touchdowns. You're right. You're absolutely right. But I just don't like the low snap share and the razor thin margin of error that he has. That's what I don't like about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. All right, so getting started about waivers this week. Obviously, Kenneth Walker is the number one waiver claim. Yes, Tony, you should pick up the New England defense. I mean, they just pitched a shutout for one of the highest scoring teams in the league coming in, if not the highest scoring team in the league coming in, the Detroit Lions, and they pitched a shutout and looked very impressive doing it as well. So I definitely would pick up New England's defense. In fact, I think that's the best defensive play that you might be able to pick up off waivers this week. But anyway, getting back to Kenneth Walker. So Kenneth Walker is the number one waiver claim for this week for sure. And, he looked good last week. He's an explosive back. Anybody that saw him at Michigan State can tell you that Kenneth Walker was really good. It was only really just 1 year that he was top notch in college, but it was a very impressive year nonetheless. Didn't do so much catching the football, but he ran very well, very efficient, has good speed, good power. He can break tackles. And I think he's going to be a very big player for the Seattle Seahawks the rest of the way after Rashad Penny was lost for the season with the fractured tibia. DJ Dallas. The one thing I will say before I jump ahead of DJ Dallas is that the percent of routes run by Walker wasn't great. I think it was only in the 30 percentile. So, and he wasn't much of a receiver in college. So in PPR leagues, we might need to pump the brakes just a little bit when it comes to Walker. I think he's going to be a running back 2 in all fantasy football leagues. I think he's going to be 2 in standard, a lower running back in PPR. Progressive passes. He wasn't asked to do that much at Michigan State. So that is within the realm of possibility. Just like I've talked about with J.K. Dobbins, I think J.K. Dobbins is going to be can be a better receiving back. But Kenneth Walker is the number one guy to get a bell cow back, which is what he's looking right now off the wire in week, leading is definitely a big boost roster if you get him, and it's going to cost you the number one waiver spot. And I think it's worth it. And certainly with a decent amount of fab money, I think you should look to spend that on Kenneth Walker as well. Because I think he's just going to have so much volume that it's going to be worth it. All right. Benjamin is also somebody you might want to look at. Now, it looks like James Conner is going to be okay. They were being overly cautious with him, and I think that was a prudent move because James Conner, we know, is always injured, can't stay on the field, and he really has not been impressive this year at all. I feel like James Conner is a much better support player, like he was with Chase Edmonds, and not so much a starter or the main guy. He's always hurt, and all these injuries that he's had in his career, and he's also had cancer going back to college, so that's a very serious thing. It could be having an effect on his body earlier than most running backs. He's just not looking explosive at all. He doesn't look good. He's not really catching the football either. But Benjamin, on the other hand, has some good speed. He can catch the ball. He's a guy I definitely would pick up off waivers this week if he's available. Because you really should have picked him up already if you used the handcuff running back strategy that I've been telling you about all year. James Conner's not going to last this season. He just never does. Okay. My issue moving Jamar is I'm 1-4, so I need to win. True. Higgins missing time with his injury is something I can't afford. Thank you for the advice. Yeah, I mean, if you have Higgins and Jamar Chase, it's a very, they're both potential wide receiver one. Certainly Jamar Chase is, and T. Higgins has been a wide receiver one when he's on the field, but he's always banged up. He doesn't have the durability that Jamar does. And the offensive line has really on the offense. Less than 4 yards per carry hasn't been impressive for him either. But you're not going to be able to trade Higgins because he's hurt. Jamar Chase, you have to get a lot back, and I think you can get a lot back from Jamar Chase. You might even get a top shelf. Maybe not Saquon Barkley because they're so hot, but I think you can get something decent. Jalen would as well. So report came to that Jalen Warren is going to be used more in the offense going forward. He's looked good. We all know how awful Najee Harris has looked, and this is no surprise to me, and it shouldn't be a surprise to you. It was the most obvious call of the summer in my book that to fade Najee Harris. The numbers were glittering from last season, 70-plus catches, all those rushing yards, because it was completely work volume related. He averaged less than 4 per carry, which is terrible for a running back. But he caught all of those passes, catching 70 passes as a running back. It almost clouds the judgment of the fantasy football community. And that's why he was still being drafted late first round, which he shouldn't have been. And now Jalen Warren is showing himself to be the much more explosive player. So I think Jalen Warren is going to get more of a snap share as we go along because the Steelers are desperate for a win. Najee Harris looks terrible. He looks like he's running in quicksand. So I think Jalen Warren should absolutely be picked up this week. All right, Alec Pierce. So ordinarily I would say to avoid the Indianapolis Colts offense because it looks completely broken. But if you look at Alec Pierce's numbers the last couple of weeks, he's really starting to pick up steam. He's had over 80 yards the last 2 weeks. He's entering the circle of trust with Matt Ryan, and it's a very constricted target tree. You have Michael Pittman and really not much else. The tight ends around the red zone, that's pretty much it. Naheem Hines has a concussion. He may not play this week, probably won't. So Alec Pierce, who's proving himself to be the downfield threat that he had, the reputation he had coming out of college, is somebody I would certainly look at. All right, Brian Robinson. If for some reason Brian Robinson slipped through the cracks, I would pick him up. Now, he didn't look great his first game back, but forgive the guy. I mean, he was just coming back from being shot, missing all that time after being shot at the end of the preseason. There's certainly rust. He's a rookie, but if you noticed how he basically dominated the carries, made Antonio Gibson a bit part, I think Brian Robinson should be picked up. And Brian Robinson can also catch the football. That's something that a lot of people just don't remember going back to his college days. Again, last call on Rachaad White. You should have him already if you're a Leonard Fournette fan. I own Fournette in 2 leagues, and I have Rachaad White on my bench in both leagues to protect myself. And I think Rachaad White could be a high-end running back too. He reminds me a little bit of DeAndre Swift, hopefully with better health. I think Rachaad White could be a real difference maker if Fournette goes down. And let's face it, Fournette has missed time the last couple of years. Rondale Moore looked very good coming back. Now, DeAndre Hopkins is due back soon, so I don't know how long this the staying power of Rondale Moore. And I'm curious to see also Marquise Brown. I don't think it's going to affect Marquise Brown as much because he's got a college connection with Kyler Murray. I'm not liking this Cardinals offense. It hasn't looked good all season. They've had to play catch up in almost every game. But Rondale Moore was used quite heavily last week, and he certainly should be picked up off waivers. Jacoby Myers, believe it or not, is available in 47% of fantasy leagues. And Yahoo Fantasy Leagues, 47% for a guy who's a target monster. Say what you will about Jacoby Myers. He's got the lawyer name. He doesn't catch touchdowns, but he had a touchdown last week. He's got something going with this rookie, Zappy, if that's how you pronounce his name, the rookie for New England. And by the way, it seems like there's a quarterback controversy right now. Bill Belichick hedged his bets today in terms of whether Mac Jones will get the job when he comes back. And you know what? I understand that because the kid against the Green Bay Packers brought the Pats into overtime. And then last week they shut out the Detroit Lions and the kids played pretty damn well. So I'm not totally shocked by that at all. Are you high on Kamara? You know what? I think Kamara is going to be just fine. And he played fine. It looked like the Kamara of old last week, but Taysom Hill certainly vultured the touchdowns. And that's something I'm going to talk about when I talk about Taysom Hill in a little bit. Geno Smith, if Geno Smith's available, I said this on the stream the other day, the biggest shock in the entire fantasy football season, in my opinion, has been the play of Geno Smith. Not only has he looked poised, he's accurate, he's throwing a lot of touchdowns, but he has buffered, he's lifted the value of Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf almost by himself when it looked like both of those guys are going to be wide receiver 3 and nothing more. 34% availability, I think you can check out Mike. Melvin Gordon, he's ancient. I mean, he's old. Certainly the Denver Broncos this week for sure. Kenny Pickett, 70% ownership. Listen, Kenny Pickett's his nose in there. He played with balls. He played with plays. He's learning on the fly. I like the way he played last week. And I think Kenny Pickett, you can move a little bit. Certainly if you're in a super flex league, I would think about picking up Kenny Pickett. And then there's, of course, Taysom Hill. All right. Well, before I get to Taysom Hill, Evan Ingram, who had a good game last week for the Jaguars, he should be picked up as well. I have an offer from someone. This is from John Nateki. I have an offer from someone. Trade away JT and Pitts. So whoever's making you this offer is clearly trying to buy low. And you receive Godwin and Swift. Would you do it? Tight ends Njoku, which is right now is better than Pitts. Running back of Barkley, Hall, Pierce, Robinson. You have Barkley and Hall and Pierce. I love all three of them. Yeah, I definitely would do that deal. 100%. Kyle Pitts it's just not happening with Kyle Pitts. We got to stop waiting for it. They don't trust Marcus Mariota to throw. And even if Desmond Ridder was the quarterback, the Falcons are just not throwing the football. And this is hurting Kyle Pitts. It's hurting Drake London. If you're an owner of either one of those guys, this is a problem. John, I would do that deal. So Taysom Hill. So there was chatter today. I'm not sure who said it, excuse me, that Taysom Hill will remain a focal point, not a focal point, but a major part of the running game going forward. And honestly, I don't know what's taken him so long. He was awesome in week 1, didn't do anything week 2, 3, and 4. I mean, he scored a touchdown in week 4, but it was only eight fantasy points. It was really just that one touchdown. And then, of course, he broke fantasy football in week 5 with 36 touchdowns. He outscored every quarterback in fantasy football except for Josh Allen and Pat Mahomes. Now, that's pretty select company. He's 4th in fantasy football in tight end fantasy points without catching a pass. He's thrown a touchdown. He's run for all these touchdowns. And if you're an Alvin Kamara owner, this is pretty freaking bad because they're going to use Hill around the goal line. And why wouldn't they? The defenses have to account for whether he's going to run it, whether he's going to throw it, whether he's going to go out in space and catch it. I mean, the guy is just a true riddle for defenses because he can literally do it all. And I love it. There's a lot of complaining, a lot of bullshit going on social media. Oh, he shouldn't be a tight end. League shouldn't allow it. Somebody posted today on one of the videos that their league, Randy Miller, I think it was you, that said that we are outlawing Taysom Hill at tight end. Respectfully, I disagree with that. I think it's a great story. It's unique. If the league gave him tight end eligibility, then it's fair game. That's my opinion of it. And the genie is out of the bottle with Taysom Hill. Even Dennis Allen has to realize that, I've said this before, you'd be a complete fool, a moron. Now, I know he's a defensive coach, but you'd be an absolute moron not to keep using this guy if defenses can't solve it. So I think Taysom Hill at a position like tight end, unless you own Mark Andrews, unless you own Travis Kelce, it's touchdown or nothing for 90% of the tight ends in fantasy football. So you have a guy in Taysom Hill, whenever he comes on the field, is liable to score. Now, there could be those rough, 2 to 3 point weeks like we saw in week 2, but then you get a 36-point week like you have this past week. I think there's no going back with Taysom Hill. I have him. I'm starting him this week in one of my leagues. The league that I'm 2-3 in, I'm definitely starting him. I'm 4-1 in my other league. Luckily, I have Travis Kelce, so I don't have to worry about him. But he's sitting on waivers in that league. I might even just pick him up just to block somebody else from getting him. So Taysom Hill, I think this is a great thing. Maybe I'm on the minority on this, but I think it's a good story for fantasy football. It gets everybody talking. It's different. It is a cheat code for sure with the quarterback tight end eligibility. And that's why I posted that video originally over the summer. And like I said, it's been fun. All right. The other thing today, and I posted a poll, Devonte Adams. I did a video on this earlier. I think the guy is screwed. All right. Let me just get to this. Mark Lazowitz. I'm 0-5 in a PPR league. Mark, my condolences. I need help. My wide receivers are Amon-Ra St. Brown, Marquise, and Metcalf. Looks good to me. My running backs are Kamara and Connor. Not so much there. My tight ends, Darren Waller. Bad luck there. And my flex is Dobbins and QB, Jacoby Brissett. What else should I do? Well, your quarterback is a problem. That's for sure. You need to improve your quarterback. Jacoby Brissett's not going to get it done. Darren Waller, you've had some bad luck. So, hey, if Taysom Hill or Evan Ingram is available, pick up one of those guys. Hill first, Ingram second. That would be the first thing I do there. I think you're fine at receiver with Amon, Marquise, and Metcalf. Kamara and Connor, I don't like Connor. You could pick up Benjamin just as a hedge. Dobbins, I think will be okay. The problem that you have, like I said, is Darren Waller is giving you absolutely nothing, and he got injured yesterday, and he's been a slow healer. So I think you pick up Ingram, you pick up Taysom Hill for sure. All right, Anthony wants to know Hill versus Walker on waivers. My running backs are listed below. Hill versus Walker. Well, you got to pick up. As much as I love Taysom Hill, you got to pick up Kenneth Walker. Number one over anybody in situations, because this is almost unheard of situation where you get a bell cow back off of waivers at week 6. So Anthony, you got to pick up. I don't even need to see who your other backs are. You got to pick up Walker. Ross Bob, should I trade Devonte Adams and Montgomery for Josh Jacobs and Lamb? Yes, I hate David Montgomery, and hate's a strong word. I shouldn't say that. I don't hate him. I don't hate anybody. But yes, you absolutely should do that because Adams is probably going to get suspended for a game. David Montgomery is a compiler. There's no explosion at all, and he's always hurt. Josh Jacobs has been a monster. I can't believe somebody is selling Josh Jacobs and CeeDee Lamb as well. All right, Aldon Mazer. This guy traded me Ken Walker and Brandon Cooks for Cortland. Cortland Cooks. This guy traded me Ken Walker and Brandon Cooks for Cortland Sutton, I guess you mean? Okay, that worked out pretty good. Brandon Cooks is having some problems this season. Nico Collins is usurping his attention from Davis Mills, and that's a problem. That's why I traded Brandon Cooks a couple of weeks ago, because I saw problems arising here, and I wanted to get out before Nico Collins became the dominant receiver in this offense, and it's starting to look that way. Would you trade Hopkins and Kamara for Aaron Jones and Sutton full PPR? 100%. 100%. Do that deal right now. Breece Hall and Hopkins for Sutton and Aaron Jones, or Breece Hall and Hopkins for Sutton and Aaron Jones. I love Breece Hall. I think Breece Hall might score more fantasy points than Aaron Jones the rest of the way. 100%. Yeah, Mark, I mean, Edmonds sucks. Pollard's not even catching passes. ETN, you start ETN over Connor, I think. But, Edmonds you can just pretty much drop for sure. What was I saying? All right, Devonte Adams. And guys, if you're just jumping in, make sure you hit the subscribe button, okay? If you haven't done so already. Lots of videos coming. Certainly, I'm getting close to the 1,000. Well, I still have a ways to go to the 1,000 subscribers and the 4,000 viewer hour threshold where I can start having the super chat. And again, I never ask for donations, but people have been asking me about super chat. and that's when it comes. I do have, and Mark, thanks for subscribing. I just got the notification. I appreciate it. I do have PayPal on the homepage of my channel where, I can accept donations, but again, never asked for, always appreciated. Somebody sent me one the other day. It was very generous, and I really appreciate that. It definitely helps with the channel for sure. Now, Devonte Adams. I've watched this a few times. He's coming off the field, guts ripped out off of a very, very difficult defeat. And a game that the Raiders should not have blown under any circumstances. The guy that he shoves as he's walking off the field, Adams sort of has his head down. The guy walks literally right in front of him. And initially I thought, all right, Adams just shoved him. He's wrong, 100%, suspend the guy. But the more I watch it, it almost seems like Adams got surprised and he kind of just reacted. I don't know. Maybe I'm making an excuse for him. And I don't own Devonte Adams anywhere in my 2 leagues. So that let me just put that out there. I don't own him anywhere. I think he's still going to get suspended, but I don't know if it's as bad as it looks. And the guy goes to the hospital. He's filed the police report. It doesn't, you know how this looks. I mean, let's face it. Probably somebody called him and said, listen, go to the hospital, fill out a police report. It's Devonte Adams. He's got more money than God. Get something out of this. It's the world we live in. We're in a litigious society. That's what happens. All right. All right, Anthony, my last question. Myers versus Pickens on waiver. Oh, man, that's tough. Both. Point. I would say Myers because he's got less target competition. That's how I would decide that. But anyway, what do you guys think about Devonte Adams? Does he deserve it or not? Excuse me. 60% of the poll says yes. What I ultimately think is going to happen is Roger Goodell will suspend him for a game. Goodell almost has to. It was a bad look. You can't have a star player knocking over, whether he pushed him intentionally or not, knocking over a support staff member on the sideline. It's not a good look. And I think Goodell has to put his foot down and will put his foot down in a means to dissuade for anybody from ever thinking of doing something like this again. It's a message moment to just basically emphasize this can't happen again. We can't have a repeat of this. So that's why I think Devonte Adams is going to get suspended. I'm curious to hear what everybody else has to say about this. The Raiders were on a bye. It would come on week 7 if he does miss time. But I think it's going to happen. Now, the other thing with the Raiders is Josh Jacobs. Holy hell. 30-plus fantasy points the last 2 weeks. Now, next year, after the Hall of Fame game, remind me never to throw out players who appear in the Hall of Fame game. Josh Jacobs played in the Hall of Fame game. It was the first storyline of the fantasy football season. It really was. Playing the Hall of Fame game. They didn't pick up his position. Josh McDaniels runs committees. It was so shit. He's playing in the Hall of Fame game. They don't give a rat's ass if he gets hurt. They want this mere. They have what's his name? The Brandon Bolden, who they brought in. So it looked bad for Josh Jacobs, but it almost got to the point probably with McDaniels, and we don't know what goes on in practice. Maybe Zamir White was struggling in practice, and he's just like, you know what? Jacobs is the best guy, and he's unleashed him, and he's gone absolutely apeshit ballistic the last couple of weeks, 30-plus fantasy points. Anybody who held on to Jacobs really is getting rewarded right now. His value is at an all-time high this season. All right, who's the best out of these players for week 6? Hayden Hurst, Cole Kmet, not Cole Kmet. Taysom Hill, Logan Thomas, Hunter Henry. Throw out Kmet and Henry right away. I want nothing to do with the Chicago offense. Hunter Henry is just way too inconsistent. I would go Hayden Hurst if T. Higgins is out. If Higgins plays, and I don't think he will, I think they're going to give him a week because he had a flare up with the ankle. And this is why I told you to go out and trade for Tyler Boyd, because whether it's a Jamar Chase injury or a T. Higgins injury, we've seen Tyler Boyd be a top 20 fantasy receiver in PPR leagues, and that's what he can become if Higgins sits. But I would play Hayden Hurst if Higgins is out. If he's playing, I'm rolling the dice with Taysom Hill. All right, the other thing now, it's gotten a lot of play is the Carolina Panthers situation. So they mercifully fired Matt Rule. And, don't feel bad for Matt Rule. He's got $40 million coming to him the next 3.5 years. He's probably going to end up back in college, maybe Nebraska. He's going to be just fine. The bigger story with the Panthers is what will happen with Christian McCaffrey, what's going to happen with DJ Moore, what's going to happen with Robbie Anderson. And I did a video yesterday, and there was already reports trickling out that the Bills had called Christian McCaffrey. And then there were reports that said, no, this did not happen. So you don't know what to believe. There's been rumors going back to the offseason that the Bills had called about McCaffrey, and it makes sense. The running back is the one decent-sized, obvious weakness that the Bills have. They have a nuclear paying. It's better than any running back in football. He's truly a player. And through all the luck with the Panthers over the last few years and the quarterback issues, they're top 3 fantasy football bonanza of a weapon. Every week he plays. It makes sense. And there's a lot of people saying, the contract's paid for this year. They paid most of it. Why would they trade him? They're not going to trade him. The Bills are stupid to make that trade for him. Baloney. There is no reason the Panthers need to hold on to Christian McCaffrey. If they want to improve their draft stock as much as possible, and at this point, why the hell not? If you want to get C.J. Stroud, if you want to get the Alabama kid, if you want to get Sam Hartman, and Sam Hartman is really impressing me. I've watched him, the Wake Forest kid. He was on that QB1 special on Netflix. Sam Hartman, and by the way, anybody who loves the NFL draft, I do a yearly book every year where I scout all the players. I watch every college football game, guys. I scout all the players, including the small school guys, and I release my draft guide probably around February or March. It's available for sale on Amazon. I'm also going to sell it through the channel here. So make sure you look for that sometime in February, and I'll let you know as I come along. But I've seen a lot of tape on Sam Hartman. I think he's rising quickly like a Pat Mahomes did when Mahomes started to make some hay before his draft. So I'm just saying that's Pat Mahomes, but Sam Hartman is somebody you really got to pay attention to. C.J. Stroud is still the number one guy in my opinion. Where's I going with this? Oh, okay. So again, the Carolina Panthers have no need for Christian McCaffrey, a top running back, the top running back on one of the worst teams in the league makes absolutely no sense. And if you gave truth serum to Christian McCaffrey, he would say the same thing. He wants out. He doesn't want to be here. He doesn't want to keep losing. Let's go. Put him on the Bills. And then DJ Moore, I think everybody should stop what they're doing. Trade for DJ Moore. It's probably not going to cost a lot. If you have a spare part that would help out the DJ Moore owner, I would do it. Bring DJ Moore in. If DJ Moore gets traded, and I think there's a 50-50 chance he does get traded, anywhere he goes will be a much better spot other than maybe the New York Giants, which I could see actually. I could see the Giants making a play for DJ Moore. Anywhere else he goes, and could you imagine if he goes to Kansas City? The Chiefs are looking for a number one wideout. I hate to say it, and I was wrong to this point. Juju Smith-Schuster is just not getting it done. It's just not happening. So I will take the hit on that one for sure. In fact, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who I'm making a waiver claim on one of my leagues, he actually looks like the best bet now receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs. Who's the best out of these week 6? Stafford, Derek Carr, Lawrence, Goff, Wentz, Justin Fields, Geno Smith, Taysom Hill. Not Hill, not Fields. Carr's not playing. Goff's not playing either. Lawrence is playing the Colts. Stafford, God, I can't even trust Stafford. I can't play. You know what? Geno Smith. You got to fall in on Geno Smith. He's playing too good right now. You got to fall in on Smith. And I want to get to something I want to talk about. Anyway, DJ Moore could be traded. Robbie Anderson, if Robbie Anderson gets traded, it's really not going to move the needle for me much in terms of wanting to go out and get him. But I think you should trade for DJ Moore. Just like last year with Odell Beckham, I traded for Beckham while he was with the Browns, thinking he was absolutely going to get traded or released, and he ended up with the Rams. And it was an awesome move, a foresight move on my part that I was very proud of. And I think the same scenario could be evolving here with DJ Moore. That's how I see it. All right, Carson Wentz. Ron Rivera threw Carson Wentz under the bus today. And I already think Carson Wentz is wearing out his welcome in Washington. This is his last chance. Carson Wentz he's just shit. He really is. He's a coach killer. I hated what he did to Frank Reich in Philadelphia. I absolutely hate what he did there. I thought it was, Peterson, excuse me. I'm sorry. I thought it was just absolutely ridiculous what he did to him. Carson Wentz is very thin-skinned, all right? And when Doug Peterson was the coach there, and I said Reich, I meant Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson grew tired of Carson Wentz, and he wanted to bring along Jalen Hurts. And honestly, it certainly looks like the right move now. But Carson Wentz whined, he complained. Behind the scenes, he was a pain in the ass, supposedly, and it helped get Doug Peterson fired. Well, then Carson Wentz goes to the Colts, and he sucks there. He couldn't win a big game against the Jaguars when he needed to. And now the owner of the Colts could not wait to get rid of him. And then, of course, the Washington Commanders think it's a swell idea to bring him in. And after 5 weeks, Ron Rivera is already fed up with him. Sam Howell needs to be on your watch list. So Sam Howell, smallish quarterback, North Carolina kid. It looked like Sam Howell was going to be a top quarterback draft pick ahead of all the other passers heading into this last college, not this season, the previous college football season. But North Carolina, they lost Javonte Williams. They lost Michael Carter. They lost a lot of players on their offensive line. And Howell struggled. All right. He was beat up every week. And he struggled badly. The year before that, he looked great. He's on the small side, 6'1", but he can run and he can throw it. He's got a strong arm for a small guy. It's almost like Russell Wilson. He could run very well. And then Howell, when the Redskins took him, one of the few things the Redskins have done right, he played great in the preseason. He played so good that there was talk that maybe he should start over Carson Wentz. Well, obviously it didn't happen with all the money they outlaid for Carson Wentz. But with Ron Rivera already talking about showing his impatience, my mic is not working. It's not working right now. You can't hear me? I'm sorry, guys, if that's true. It's glitching out. Oh, man, I'm sorry about that. Sometimes this room that I'm in, sometimes it glitches out. I apologize, guys, if it's glitching in and out. It happens sometimes. I'm actually in a basement doing this, so that's probably why it's happening. So what did you want me to answer again, Mark? I'm sorry. Who should I start week 6? Moore, Duvernay, Boyd, Julio Jones, Russell Gage, Jarvis Landry. Well, certainly Boyd, if Higgins is out, I would definitely start him. Don't start Moore. I would do Boyd or Jarvis Landry. All right. I'll do it. Boyd or Landry. All right. I'm sorry, guys, if it's glitching out. I really apologize. I had no idea that was happening. So I might have to cut it short then just to see what was going on. Next time, I'll definitely move into another room if this room is a problem. But anyway, talking about Sam Howell, I think he's going to be a guy that's going to be used soon. I think he's going to be entering the lineup soon. I think Carson Wentz is just not getting it done, and they don't trust him. And the coaching staff is out on Carson Wentz already, if you ask me my opinion. That's just what I thought, yeah. All right, guys. Again, I apologize for the questions. I didn't know what was going on. Thank you, Mark, for pointing that out to me. So next time I'm in a different location, test it out, go on. Again, make sure you hit the subscribe, hit that notification button. I will definitely be on tomorrow for the first injury report of the week. Wednesday, I always do the live stream, so make sure you tune in for that. And we will chat then. All right. So again, drop me a follow, hit the notification button, and we will chat soon. Have a great night, everybody.